All right, so let's take a quick look at the Meta Plays balance mod changes. This is a balance mod for extended edition. So the current version is 2.8, and this is the version where if you take a look at probably my recent extended edition tier list, is basically that, and then they're going to make that. This is the gameplay changes for that. So the things included in here, just a couple of nice quality of life changes, like post-game quit button is removed. Blind pick is now enabled by default, so that's nice. A couple of extra familiar maps in Borderlands, Tropical Mirage, Frozen Wastes, and Arctic Craters. Beyond that, some gameplay balance changes. So these ones look like they are Chinese-specific changes. If you are unaware of the Chinese, because I don't play them very much on the channel, or we don't see them very much, the reason for that is mostly because we don't spend a lot of time on extended edition due to lack of high quality gameplay that's available over there due to people's computers or whatever's going on. Ping, shenanigans, whatever. But Earthen Walls cost getting reduced from 150 food, 150 gold to 100 food, 100 gold. So really, really cheap. Now, the reason for this one is that unlike the Stonewall upgrade, which is a mere 100 resources more, this only gives like 200 HP or something to your walls, whereas Stonewalls gives like 600 HP. So it's a really big difference. It's a really, really dumb technology, and when they made this, they really didn't think much of it. When they made it. So this is a quality of life change to make that technology just a little bit less like a punch in the face to slow your wall technology upgrades down. Beyond that, the Chinese dock cost was reduced from 125 wood to 100 wood. It's actually a really, really big buff to the Chinese on water. But if you take a look at gods not named Fuji in the Chinese roster, they really, really struggled on water. So it makes some sense where that's concerned, but I'm not sure that this change, I think this change will help Fuji even more on maps like Midgard if the Chinese Fuji dock is 100 wood as well, because if you reduce it to 100, then you take the 10% off, it goes down to 90. 90 wood for a dock is a lot, so you get going really fast. And this is the more interesting change that I've seen so far. This one here is a big nerf to the Immortal Hero. I think it's really, really good. I think the Immortal Hero is too strong by far. Whether or not this change actually does enough or not is a big question. So if we take a quick look, 9 train time to 12. So this effectively makes, if you want to train say all 4 of your heroes in the classical age, you're going to be looking at close to another villager loss from your town center to do this. So this change only really hits the early game of Chinese, and then the population cost increased from 2 to 3 is going to hit the late game of the Chinese. So one thing that I found with the Chinese is that late game they were pretty oppressive. If you went for an immortal Fire Lancer, Halberdier style composition, there wasn't a lot that any civilization could do to stop that. Because if you wanted to make range units, the Immortals would mostly take them out. If you wanted to make cavalry units, the Halberdiers would be more than fine to take everything else out. And if you, not only the Immortals would take everything out, but the Fire Lancers would take the range heroes out, or the range units out. And then if you made infantry units, funnily enough, the pews, the Fire Lancers would take those out as well from range. And then the Halberdiers would tank with the help of the Immortals. So this one is a hit to the early game and a hit to the late game, and maybe good enough. Chokunyu and Toxote now do negative 10% damage versus Scout Cavalry. This is a big start to the Scout Cavalry rework. Chokunyu have a slight attack animation length reduction, which is going to make them perform much more similar to the Toxote, which is maybe a good thing, maybe a bad thing. Bit of a buff to the Chokunyu. Chokunyu was a little bit underwhelming, I would say, for China. So maybe this is a help. So now the Scout Cavalry bonus versus economic units is removed. So it's no longer a raiding only unit. Its turn rate has been matched with the other cavalry units, so it's less clumsy to maneuver around. Hack damage has been reduced from 6 to 5. Hack armor reduced from 15 to 10%. PS armor increased from 30 to 35%. And the bonus increased for us archers from 1.3 to 1.75. So this unit becomes a much needed classical age counter archer unit for the Chinese it is a specific counter archer unit. It's going to be awful against infantry, and it's going to be good against archers. It's going to be awful against cavalry. So you can't use this unit like Greek uses it at all. It's just, you have to use it against archers, and that's it. If you have to use it against cavalry, you better have some halberdiers there as well. So this really does mean that Fuji can actually now go halberdier, scout cavalry, and have a really fun time to mitigate this nerf a little bit in the population. So instead of having to go immortal halberdier, they can go halberdier, scout cavalry, with maybe a couple less immortals. So still seems like the strength is somewhat there, but it's going to be reduced. The garden obstruction radius reduced from 4.0. This is just a quality of life change. The garden is an obnoxious building. It's effectively a monument, except it has the tiles of a farm, which is dumb. So that's reduced just a little bit to make life a little bit easier in your base. War chariot cost reduction. This unit always felt useless. I don't think there's anything you can do to fix this unit. Adding a Mythic Age cavalry unit is dumb, because by the time you start training it, your opponent mostly will have towers up, and then it starts looking a lot like the war elephant, which is good, except for when it's bad, which is a lot of the time. Furthermore, general boost radius is increased, so the general got a slight buff. I never really used the general. It's a lot of units to invest in an Arcantos type or Einhjar type damage boosting unit. Never really used it. Probably still wouldn't use it even with this boost. It's too many resources. Maybe in the late game you might throw one in, but I just don't see it. It's too finicky. It's too weird. This unit wasn't well designed at all. The idea of having an Einhjar in your army is always nice, but it's just such a finicky unit. It's so annoying. I don't know. I don't like it. Maybe it's good. Maybe it's not. I have to see someone using Chinese to make it work, because I wouldn't want to put the effort into it. Blessed construction no longer works on towers and castles, and wood cost reduction no longer works on docks. Docks for Fuji. So Fuji keeps 100 wood on the dock, but does not get the wood cost reduction. So that's good. The blessed construction not working on towers and castles is good for two reasons. One, blessed construction was bugged on towers and castles, so it would shoot double the arrows. So this nerfs the late game of Fuji, which was bonkers, partly because of this. And on top of this, spamming up towers and castles really fast in the late game is awful to deal with. It feels awful to deal with. There's no real counterplay to it. It's kind of like your opponent's got a pharaoh on everything, except you can't kill the pharaoh. So pretty crazy. Shenong tower upgrades now get a 25% discount, so a little buff to Shenong. Wheelbarrow now also increases villager building speed, except for town centers by 10%. So that's actually a really big upgrade for Shenong, so he can spam buildings a bit better, and monks can no longer convert earth dragons. That's funny. I didn't realize that was a thing, but very good. Call to arms, human unit duplication reduced from 4 to 3. So this is a clear nerf to the early game rush that both Fuji and Noir could do. So that's a thing. I think that's great. The call to arms, if you can hold on to call to arms, it becomes so much stronger. So the idea of saying is, okay, instead of using call to arms early and getting like an extra 3 extra, like say halberdiers plus stone dude, you can hold, you're getting more incentive to hold on to it and get say 3 fire lancers and an earth dragon, or not an earth dragon, a dragon, whatever it's called, dragon? I can't remember. So you can get a lot more value out of it in like the early Mythic Age for going for timings and stuff. Not that it's any different from before. Like obviously if you do that now or off this patch, you would be able to still do the same thing, but the early game taking the nerf there, it looks like. Chang'e with the barrage damage changed from 70 hack to 15 crush, 60 hack, 15 crush. So a slight nerf to the barrage. Looks like a 10 hack reduction, and the area effect reduces. So, and also a max damage cap going down to 600. So it's only going to deal 600 damage. Duration reduced or increased. Area of radius increased. Attack interval. I don't fully understand this change. I don't know exactly what it means. It's obviously a nerf of some variety, but I can't put my finger on exactly what it's doing. Obviously, it's going to do less damage, so it's less kills, but I'm not exactly sure what happens here. It's obviously, if you watch Barrage, it can do a lot of damage sometimes, and it can really feel like a Heroic Age type God Power. Zong Q, uproot damage radius reduced from 7 to 1. Don't know what that means. Obviously a slight nerf to the uproot damage, maybe a big nerf, I don't know. Uproot is always, uproot has been always just a house killing God Power. The idea is you use uproot to kill off the house, and then you go and attack someone and they have to rebuild their houses, not able to rebuild their army, and then you can find an advantage where that's considered. As we continue, we've got the Pixu is Gold Gather Rate. If you don't know what this unit is because you don't see it very much, it's kind of Heroic Age double gong myth unit, and it gets gold while fighting, which I think these types of design features are really bad. If you were around in the beta or alpha of Age of Mythology, raiding cavalry of Norse actually gained gold while they fought, kind of similar to how in Age of Empires 4, the Mongols get resources for killing buildings. And it turns out that Ensemble Studios realized that this is a really bad mechanic. It rewards you for doing something you should already be doing, and you're also already being rewarded for getting favor in that situation. But in this situation, this is just a tired, unimaginative special ability that the Pixu got given, and now it gets to get a little bit more gold. So that's nice. White Tiger gets a little bit of a nerf in the late game, or kind of not in the late game. It's 5 population instead of 4. White Tiger bonus versus heroes with special attack gets reduced, so that's good as well. Because the White Tiger could jump onto like an enemy pharaoh and basically one-bang it. So maybe that's not going to be able to happen anymore. But this unit's really, really strong in the late game or in the early Mythic Age. Good to see a nerf where that's concerned. Great Flood spawns 1 less child. Not sure exactly what the child means, but maybe this explains it, effectively reducing its wideness by 25%. So a little bit less area of effect damage. Its persistent damage has been reduced from 1.5 to 1.0 and 2.0 to 1.5 crush DPS. So it's just a nerf to Great Flood. Azure Dragon can now use a special. That's just a bug fix. And we now see 30% extra hack damage going to the Azure Dragons for our Kwong, because effectively this is exactly the same as Artemis, this god. So that puts that technology in line with the Nemean Lion. No, what's it called? The Chimera. Other changes, not Chinese. Rock speed reduced from 4.6 to 4.2. Close to what Vubli's is at, so a nerf where that's concerned. Shifting Sands, minimum HP enemy units, 400 to 200. Now Shifting Sands is even less of a defensive god power. I think that Egyptian players shouldn't be using Shifting Sands defensively ever. You should play around the fact that your opponent's got Odysseus or a Greek hero and actually think about ways in which you can use Shifting Sands to find an actual advantage in the game instead of removing your opponent's strength in the matchup. So this will still be able to pull both Odysseus and potentially something else, depending on how much HP it's got, but it might not as well. Like if you put a Minotaur, Jason, and Odysseus in the position and then you try and Shifting Sands set thing, you might only grab the Minotaur. Beyond that, Shifting Sands cannot shift enemy villages anymore, so that's really, really great. A huge nerf to Egyptians. This was one of the more broken strategies that you could use with Egyptians. You advance 4 minutes-ish or even faster. You're Shifting Sands 2 villages. You build a town center. You're just in front by a ton of villages early on, and you can find a victory quite easily with that. Locust DPS reduced from 30 to 25. There's no way to make Locust a balanced god power. It's either going to do nothing or it's going to do too much. So this is pushing it more into the way of doing nothing. So we'll see how that's going to go. Earthquake, Shockwave, Tartarian, Get, Undermine, Meteor, Barrage. Have a camera shaking is massively reduced. Fantastic. Skin of the Rhino only in the town center. So another nerf to Ra. This is bringing it in line with Vubli. Polyphemus, Titan, Monkey King, and General special attacks and do not affect the Earth Dragon. Yay. Kopesh speed nerf to 5.5. It was at 5.75. So 5.5 brings it in line with the Hippocon, which makes it a lot more easy to catch. Set food-based animals costs 50%-ish favor. So this might mean that you can now place set similar to how you place set on Vubli. And that's really, really good. So if you can eat your... if you can now build Gazelle for about 3 favor, 2 or 3 favor, then you can now execute the same strategies I've been talking about on Extended Edition that you could execute on Vubli, which is really helpful because Set got a nerf in this Shifting Sands. So that's shifting the power around and giving some excitement where that's concerned. And that's the end of it. If you guys like me reading balance changes, let me know. That's what I'm here for. Reading balance changes. All right. Bye.